This next video is the introduction to cellular respiration. This is just a brief overview of what cellular respiration is, a little bit of why it's important. Cellular respiration takes place in the mitochondria, and something I want to point out before I even dive into the mitochondria is that plant cells have mitochondria too. So yes, they use the chloroplast to make glucose, but they still need a way to take that glucose and make it into ATP. Even though plants aren't moving and breathing and have beating hearts, they still need energy to do all the processes that keep plants going. So just keep that tucked in the back of your mind. Plant cells have mitochondria too. So there are four important parts of the mitochondria, very, very similar to the chloroplast. We have an inner membrane, an outer membrane, cristae, and the matrix. Cristae are the little folds in the mitochondria. The outer membrane is obviously the outer shell. The inner membrane is what bends around and forms cristae, and the matrix is what's in the middle. An analogy a student came up with a while back that really seems to make sense with the structure of the mitochondria is, think about the mitochondria as a lazy river. You have the outer membrane, which is the pool deck. So you might have some pool chairs there. You might be, that's where you hang out. And then your inner membrane is the wall of the pool. And that's what's holding all of the matrix, the water, in. And the cristae are every little bend in the lazy river. So that's where cellular respiration takes place. All of the components and the pieces and the parts of the mitochondria allow for cellular respiration to take place. Respiration, the whole process takes the sugar that was made in photosynthesis and makes it into ATP. It uses oxygen. That's why we breathe in oxygen and we breathe out carbon dioxide. So cellular respiration takes sugar, makes it into ATP. It is a mirror image of photosynthesis. So as you look at your equation here, cellular respiration is glucose plus oxygen yields carbon dioxide plus water. Well, photosynthesis was carbon dioxide plus water yields glucose plus oxygen. So they are literally mirror images of each other in terms of their reactants and their products. Yeah, the processes look different because they do different things, but they're still very, very similar. It takes place in all cells that have a mitochondria. So again, this chemical equation for respiration is glucose plus oxygen yields carbon dioxide plus water. Because none of our chemicals changed, the numbers changed. So that kind of rule of thumb to help you remember is it's just a bunch of 6s and 2s run together. Applies to cellular respiration too. Glucose is C6H12O6. Oxygen, you have 6 molecules of oxygen that have 2 O's in them. Carbon dioxide, you have 6 molecules of carbon dioxide and 6 molecules of water, or H2O. Some main ideas with cellular respiration. It is an aerobic process. Aerobic means that it requires energy. So think about when you do aerobic exercises. If you're doing jumping jacks or running the mile, you're breathing pretty heavy. You're taking in a lot of oxygen. Aerobic means it's requiring oxygen. Anaerobic would be something that does not require oxygen. Now, this can get a little confusing, this next concept, so I want to make sure that you're kind of understanding it. So if you need to rewind this section and listen to it again to be sure you get it, please do so. Glycolysis is a precursor to cellular respiration. It is not a step of cellular respiration. Cellular respiration has 2 stages, Krebs cycle and the electron transport chain. Glycolysis has to happen before the Krebs cycle can happen, but it can happen and does not happen inside of the mitochondria. So that makes it a very unique process. Glycolysis can happen even when we don't have oxygen or we don't have a mitochondria. And we'll get to that a little bit later. But know that glycolysis is not the first step of cellular respiration. The Krebs cycle is the first step of cellular respiration. The Krebs cycle has 3 common names. Usually I'll call it the Krebs cycle, but you may see the citric acid cycle or the TCA. Both of those, all 3 of those things mean the exact same thing. They're the first stage of cellular respiration. And then the last stage, or the second, is the electron transport chain, also called the ETC.